Hello everyone and welcome to today's MediaWorks Masterclass. I'm really looking forward to today actually. We're talking about paid media and performance unleashed, so we're going to be talking everything AI. I think it's fair to say that we've alluded to AI as part of this paid media series, and it wouldn't feel like a masterclass or a webinar or any sort of presentation in any sort of digital marketing realm if we weren't talking about AI in every session. So it's good to have one that is purely dedicated to all things AI. I think just as a way of introduction, my name's David Norris. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at MediaWorks, and I'll be hosting today's masterclass. And I've got colleagues with me from across the paid media team. So would you like to introduce yourself, Claudia?
Yeah, I'm Claudia. I'm a paid search consultant. So I work kind of exclusively on Google and Bing ads.
Thank you. James?
And I'm James. I'm paid media director. So I pretty much sit across all of our paid activity and all of the channels. So we'll be talking at it from a broader perspective today.
Thanks, James. And I think, look, we always flag this right at the start. We always like to give something back. Obviously, you're giving your time to come and listen and enjoy this session, hopefully. But what we'd like to do is we'd like to offer a free AI performance audit. So what that'll encompass is it'll encompass a free complimentary audit and a forecast looking at where if you're utilizing paid media currently, are using all of these tools and all these technologies, and how you're getting the best blend. Is the right blend there in terms of utilizing some of the AI versus not using some of the AI? You know, again, engaging with best practices. So please do, you know, it's no obligation at all, but please do click on the link that's in the chat right now and sign up as we go through the session. I will refer to it as we go through. I guess the final thing to say is really, to tee all this up, is this is the final session in the Paid Media Masterclass series. We covered maximising paid ROI back in the end of June. We then looked at creative excellence in the last session, and today we're looking at all things AI. What I would say as well is we actually did a LinkedIn one before that, so it feels like we're saying it's a three-parter, James, but really it was a
Three plus
one.
Yeah,
one. There we go. So I guess the first place to start would be sort of the rise of AI and machine learning in paid media. I think like it's one of those things where people are talking about AI almost like it's a new thing. And I think what we'd just like to dispel is some of the myths around the fact that it is a new thing, James.
Yeah, I think like AI automation within paid ads has been around for nearly 10 years now. And in test implements, probably slightly longer than that in most cases. It is just a thing that has gradually developed as we've got more data across more years, and the technology's got better and better. The platforms are more sophisticated. There's a bigger variety of them now, and they capture more and more data points, and the more data you capture, the more that you're able to feed a platform, and the more likely that a human isn't able to control everything from their CPCs and their bidding and back in the day. So we've gone through introductions of sort of smart bidding, which 2016, but really didn't, like, I still remember when we, like, in 2018, where most people still were manual CPC. We were just moving to enhanced CPC at that point in time, but like the technology was there. Then we got stuff like smart shopping and sort of responsive ads. Again, took a couple of years for us to really adopt some of those technologies. Into the sort of the 2021s, you've got the likes of Performance Max starting to roll out, where it stops being about like automating the bid adjustments and to try and find users with value based on broader audience signals, and starts being about actually how do we look at placements and other things into that, taking into account the feed, etc. And it's not just Google. Meta Advantage Plus came out about that time, which is effectively their equivalent to it. And then you've got the likes of TikTok, Smart Plus, and some of the LinkedIn things that we'll talk about later. But like, really, this is an evolution, and AI/automation has been in paid media for almost the last 10 years, and we've been using it more and more. And we will continue to be using it and going more in depth in that in the future.
Yeah, and I think for me, the key call out is I think where we started was almost like we tried to use machine learning on very specific tasks. So it was very task-led, whereas now what we're seeing is the introduction of campaign-led AI, where it's almost like the platforms are almost, by the way, and again, sorry to be controversial if any of our partners at the platforms are listening, but I feel like where they try to get to is sell the holy grail of oh, well, actually, there's a load of automation that can actually happen. And it's almost, the sell it is simplistically, you need to just set your goal and then let the campaigns and let the machine learning do its thing, and it'll drive performance. Again, we'll dispel some of that as I think we go through today, and we'll talk about some of the positives that we've seen and also some of the challenges that we've seen as we go through. So I guess, like, some of the recent things that people might not be aware of. Claudia, I think, like, AI Max is on the back of Performance Max.
Yeah, AI Max is Google's kind of newest AI tool that's come out quite recently. We've seen it across quite a few accounts now. It's been rolled out, I think, globally now. It's essentially a new setting that you can find within your search campaigns, and it leverages AI to change your headlines, change your landing pages, and also even further broaden kind of the search terms that you're targeting. I think the idea really is to go beyond what you're currently targeting and make sure you're optimizing the things that you haven't even thought of. It's a new solution, and I think it will kind of tie in a lot to what we talk about later, which is more about how people are using AI for searching as well.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating development, and again, we will talk a bit more about some of this as we go through. And then on to Meta, so Meta Advantage Plus.
Yeah, so Advantage Plus was sort of Meta's, it's their framework for their AI development. Now, there's two routes to that. There's a fully automated Advantage Plus campaign, which is really not something that as agencies will use it in parts, but like that is the sort of the out of the box solution for if you're a small business or something like that, and you just want a one-stop shop. You set up a campaign, let the platform take care of everything, and AI will go and find the right people that it wants to target. It'll drive the sort of, it'll optimize towards the objective that you're looking at and take account of some of those audience signals. But that actually, like, Advantage Plus actually is like 5 different components within that. There's the automated audience, so that's the, like, it uses AI to find the people that are most likely to engage with your brand. You've got placements where it's actually how, like, you let it control where to put the ads, what order to show them into for specific users, the frequency, etc. Budget automation, it's like where should it be spending the budget across ad sets, campaigns, and ads. Creative automation, which is always the controversial one, in terms of allowing it to adjust, edit, and in some cases totally create new creatives for you. And then sort of design optimization, which automation where like it will rearrange things on different ads for different people depending on what their buyer signals are. So your price might move for one user versus another. And ultimately, all of this is about making a more personalized experience for the user. And it uses AI to do that. So it's, again, requires the more data you feed it, the better that performance will be.
And we'll talk about this later on around some of how we've used it and the benefits of using it. And what I'd say is some of those statistics on the right-hand side are really shout out, aren't they, in terms of they look great. But what I would say is that isn't great as just a pure plug and play, like set up Advantage Plus within your Meta account and it'll get you these results. Like there's quite a lot of structure, organization that takes place to make sure that actually the AI is doing the right things and pointing towards the right areas. Because I think what we do find, and we will talk about this as we go through, left to just its own device, we aren't seeing this as the holy grail solution out there right now. LinkedIn and on the heels, aren't they? I feel like we'll cover this briefly, but I know we talked about this massively in the LinkedIn Masterclass.
We talked about this a few weeks ago in the LinkedIn Masterclass, but LinkedIn's really got 2 big AI pushes at the moment. They also have an automated AI, do it all in one campaign type, but their big sort of selling points are their buyer group targeting, where it's about finding, using AI to figure out who the other decision makers are in the market for your product solution, and reach people who are relevant to that. So you're influencing more than just the sort of key decision maker, but you're reaching off everyone else who influences that decision. And then you've also got stuff like predictive audiences, where it's actually predictive analytics fueled by AI based on your existing customers to try and go out there. It's like a lookalike audience, but on steroids, because actually performance data comes into play, and it actually starts to think about how not just what a user looks like, but how a user interacts.
And also those hidden buyer groups are part of that, aren't they? Where it's not just about directly the people in your target market, it's people who influence that target market, which is really quite interesting. Again, for anyone that wants to know more about that, you can find the LinkedIn Masterclass on our website and via all of our channels that we did a couple of weeks, well, about a month and a half ago now, where we did a real deep dive into this. And then finally, TikTok Smart Plus. You notice they're all like Advantage or Smart Pluses. There's a lot of that going on, isn't there?
I don't know if the plus sign just stands for like extra automation AI, but yeah, Smart Plus is TikTok's version. We threw this in there because it's like every platform now has an AI solution that all emulate the same thing that fundamentally PMax brought in, but Google has then got on with demand gen as well, where it's like because of all the data digital marketing channel platforms can get, it's using AI to direct your campaigns, direct the placements, all of the things that we went through on the meta slide to really try and isolate that user performance. So TikTok's got its own version, and like again, it's one of those where like we want to use elements of it as like smart marketeers rather than the whole all-in-one solution. But it is something that like I'm sure full adoption will be in the next couple of years, and like every Smart Plus, Advantage Plus going forward.
Yeah, and I think the thing I'd say about this as a final point is this is the worst it's going to be as well. You know, like we do see them always getting better. Like I remember when we brought out Performance Max, we saw like a big step forward straight out the gate. What I'd say is Performance Max is better now than it was when it was launched like 3 or 4 years ago. So for me, it's like, it's really important that if you're an advertiser out there, that you're aware of these developments, because again, these are things that are going to be moving as we go through. And I think then, Claudia, that like ties us nicely into like fundamental changes are taking place in consumer behavior and targeting. Like you alluded to it there around like earlier around the whole Google piece, but AI is changing the way that we search.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned earlier, AI has been in paid media for years. I think the main thing that's really changed over the past couple of years is that consumers are using it too, and it's really kind of revolutionizing search in particular. I mean, ChatGPT, we've all probably used. That grew to 800 million users recently. It had 1 million users within its first 5 days. Everyone's using it. Kind of in response, Google's launched like AI overviews. AI mode is now live in the US and India, which is just more and more AI ways of searching. Microsoft even got Copilot, which you can use to search with. So consumers are moving and looking in different ways than they used to.
Yeah, and we talked about this quite heavily in the SEO sort of masterclass as well, and around the way that search is changing and the fact that people are now sort of utilizing, because the way that they have conversations rather than searches, it is changing those search queries that are coming through, because people are adding depth, adding context, and are in the same almost chat. So it's really, really interesting to see that, and we'll talk about how that's really how the platforms are adapting and going along with this, understanding the fact that the way people are searching is changing over a period of time. And we talk about this, James, don't we, in terms of like there has been definitely a fundamental shift in the product discovery landscape over sort of the last 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, 100%. I think like that there is like 80% of users still prefer traditional searches, but like 20% of people have changed the way that they search, and it's you're using things in different ways now, because there's more options out there. So like AI, the chat GPTs, like they really are finding a niche in that product comparison piece, that evaluation part of that discovery journey, and that development part. So we now know that those it's because you can get like everyone can type in anything into ChatGPT, compare these two products, you get a nice little table, it pulls everything together for you and gives you a recommendation. It's a very it fuels that buyer journey. And we have to recognize that now that is a different type of journey and a different stage of customer. And if you've got a long or a highly competitive market, or we were talking to clients that sell hi-fis yesterday, like that's something where like there's so many lots of different things that do slightly different. It's very comparable, and it is that sort of market where it's high ticket price item where product comparison becomes a thing. So we have to be cognizant of that. We also have to be aware that people are using socials for product discovery. You obviously got your marketplaces out there, such as Amazon, etc., and even the more niche ones like Etsy and that sort of thing. So people search in different ways now, and I think that, combined with the advancement of AI and the way that search is changing, does start to change some of the tactics that we see in that space.
Yeah, I think the other thing I'd say about all of this is it's amazing how much they're all moving to the center. Yeah. You know, they all started out as doing different things, and what we're seeing is ChatGPT launching like some functionality that Google's got in there around things like ad placements and all the rest of it. They're talking heavily about that. And then we're also seeing like a significant change in the way that we ultimately do things on Google. So it's like really, really interesting in terms of how all of that changes and sort of the adoption that we're seeing out there, because I do think we are definitely seeing a move to the center. We're seeing though changes in ad formats. I know sort of that is one of the things that we are seeing.
Yeah, because Google obviously will want to place ads on any kind of AI solution it releases in the future. So we already know that there's ads and AI overviews, so that's within the US at the moment. AI Mode is its kind of brand new searching service where you can essentially ask questions while you're searching. I think this will be quite revolutionary for products and shopping in particular, and they have already confirmed that they're working on what ads are going to look like in that service. So I think that's going to be, it's going to be hard to target, but also it links back to the data. We're going to have to make sure we provide all of these new campaign types and anything like that with the best data we possibly can. And in shopping's case, that's going to be really high quality data on your products.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really interesting in it to see, because you've got an example on screen now where that, like, it's AI mode, then images, then videos, etc. Yeah. So I think like they were pushing towards that. And again, that's really a response towards ChatGPT taking some of the market share away from Google in terms of the way people search. So it is going to be fascinating to see how that rolls out. And as you say, you know, US is being seen as very much a test bed for this. So it'll be interesting as to when sort of this starts to launch in the UK and across sort of mainland Europe. But we are expecting that in the next 6 months. So again, it's going to be interesting as to how ads change and how people see things within the SERP, or what used to be the SERP. It's going to be fascinating. But then targeting's changing, James?
Yeah, I think with the changes in how people are searching, how ads are being surfaced across different platforms, like the thing that we need to be very aware of is targeting is moving much, much broader. I think because AI is like we talked about, all of the different platform versions and how they're using it in different ways, that is the future. Like they will, like, and it actually in a lot of cases can be more effective to, like, as long as you test efficiently, is broad targeting using AI and using some of that automation can prove those results if it's controlled and it's tested in its iteration. But we're sort of moving towards that broader targeting space, and like the likes of this impending loss of third-party cookies and all of the data privacy concerns that have become like really prevalent over the last couple of years, like it is pushing broad, more algorithmic routes to finding audiences above that sort of really niche and dedicated searches. So the likes of AI Max being locked to broad only search terms, the likes of like at least we're getting a little bit more transparency back in terms of some of the search terms reports, but like some of these solutions move things quite black box so that they can let the algorithm reach as many different people as possible to improve it, because it gets all the learnings from that big data set to deliver the results that we've set up from the campaign. Yeah,
and we'll touch on this slightly. I think that statistic on screen's like really important as well, in terms of like 8 times return on marketing spend was achieved by brands integrating first-party data into their ad targeting strategies. We'll talk specifically about data input and how that works, but it's so important. I think it is more, we're getting to a point where it's definitely, you give a bit, you get a lot. Whereas if you're unwilling to give a bit, the reality is you're going to be locked out of a lot of these benefits that we're seeing in the platforms. So benefit, I'm conscious of time, and we've obviously got like the last 10 minutes, but the evolution in keyword usage?
Yeah, I mean, this is just an example of it getting broader with our targeting. Keywords have changed a lot in how they function kind of over the past couple of years. One example I give is like exact match. What used to be very exact, I now see act more like phrase.
Yeah.
That's with the launch of bringing things like close variants, misspellings, intent matching rather than matching by exact words. Overall, it's just got a lot broader. Everything's kind of shifting more towards AI trying to pick the right people rather than exactly the right terms.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the case across a lot of different targeting options.
I think for me, Claudia, the key thing here is as well is, yes, we're moving towards that, but it changes the role of the marketer, really. It changes the role of us as an agency in the sense that we're constantly having to evaluate as to whether that is driving the right activity, because you can get some crazy outcomes on the back of this, which we will talk about as we go through. From sort of audience targeting leading into machine learning, I think that's one of the things you've got to, haven't you, from a targeting perspective now?
Yeah, I think the slide before, like Claudia, like what Claudia said with the keyword shifting broader, like we're almost moving, like even on the search platforms, to an audience first approach, and that is because with the power of AI allows us to capture so many more variants of a user searching and their different behaviors, and actually we need to start thinking about who do we want to target. How do we use those signals? That's why we've got a big, within MediaWorks, we think first and do a lot of strategic research about those audiences and how they interact and what they're engaging with and where they're positioned, because audience is what's going to feed your machine learning, which every platform is taking advantage of right now, and that gives us that performance and that high intent at the end of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think like we've seen this as well, James, around sort of automated optimization signals. So again, just where I think the key call out here is that we're taking signals from a broader range of areas to really help us understand that high intent nature of things.
Exactly. I think AI allows the marketer to capture way more than an individual would have ever been able to capture and control, even with the most complex setup and that sort of thing. You're never going to be able to capture all of the data that a large language model can do and can take into account when it's optimizing it. So it can use more than we can, and what we have to do is provide it the right framework and controls to deliver the results based on the signals it receives.
Yeah, and you team me up perfectly for the next section, James, where we're going to talk about the role of data optimization and how you've got to feed that algorithm, really. So again, you've talked a little on this, haven't you, about the need to provide data for AI to actually function at its best.
Yeah, exactly. I think giving it first-party data, as I said, like with data privacy becoming a bigger thing, like that almost in itself is like has a bigger knock-on impact into the industry than AI itself. Yeah. Because it's fundamentally changed where we have to look at to get those user and audience signals, and it's made it more first-party. So it's stuff like making sure that the platform knows what a good customer looks like. How do we make sure that we're feeding it offline conversion data so it can see beyond an online event, so that it knows where the value actually lies. It's adding value-based bidding into some of those cases so that we know it can tier different conversions. It's making sure that you've got the right tracking setup. You've got a server-side conversion API also feeding in, so it's not reliant on a single source. It's making sure that you've got landing pages which deliver the sort of right content that you need. And when it's shopping and product based, it's like also making sure that all of the information in that feed delivers the right results. So the more data we give it, the better performance will be.
And then I think for us though, it is about creating those guardrails for AI, isn't it? I think like we've talked about it, just pure plug and play is not what we're seeing in this space right now. It's just like, we do see a bit of that when we're auditing accounts. And to be honest, it's horrific. It's probably goes far to say, like, sorry to be too like hyperbolic about it, but it does, like, it scares the life out of me when I see people just fully letting the system drive behaviors and activities within performance media. So it's really interesting in the sense that you've got to do all of these things on screen, really, to just make sure that you're putting those like guardrails in place to drive the performance we need.
100%. It's create a structure around it and evaluate that framework, and then test and iterate. Because and also, I suppose the other thing is, like, don't make snap decisions. Like, because we're using AI and the automation in some of these campaigns, they're not gonna, it's not a turn it on and it suddenly works. Like, there's a learning phase on all of this, and the less you spend, the less data that goes in, the longer that learning phase is. So, like, don't be scared if it doesn't perform in the first week. Like, give it 3 or 4, and as long as you've got enough data, and then evaluate and make your decision.
Yeah, and I think also set budget aside to trial it, you know, in a contained way as well, and just see what the performance is like. I think for me, it's don't like go all in on this thinking it's going to be the solution. I think it really is very iterative. There will be times when it'll be like, no, it is the right choice to do this, but I think, you know, again, be cautious with this. Don't just, as I say, get too heavy on this from the outset, because I think, again, the performance results that we're seeing is used in the right way, it's great. Used in the wrong way, it's absolutely disastrous, because it'll just spend your budget, and ultimately it'll be bringing in traffic or bringing in activity or audiences in from areas in a way that you sat there going, but it's not quite driving the ultimate like objectives that we set out to. It'll be delivering on what it says, in the sense that, oh, it's going broad and it's pulling these in people, and you start going, yeah, but we didn't want to pull that in. So I think for me, it's just, again, everything you've said there, like, be iterative, understand what you're trying to achieve from the outset, and very much a test and learn approach. So I guess, like, the question that a lot of people will have will be like, when to use AI. So sort of at what point should you start thinking about this from a paid media perspective?
Yeah, so I think there's two angles to look at it, really. Like, it's more effective the more data it has. So bigger budgets, more access to data will make it faster and more effective more quickly. And that is one of the key routes to go down. But equally, and it's for sort of smaller campaigns and that sort of thing, it's like, it might be the most effective solution for your budget. You might not have the capacity to have different campaign types doing different things, and actually rolling it into one so that it can fully automate, and you can let the platform sort of dictate where the performance is going to be. As long as you're managing that and optimizing that, like, you might be it'll deliver the right performance. So there isn't a single golden rule, because you can use it with smaller budgets, but it's about, like, is it going to be effective? The more data it has, the better it'll be. But that doesn't necessarily, like, if you've got a small budget, it might be more effective sometimes to push everything into a single campaign to get that data set size big enough so that it optimizes efficiently.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, isn't it? I think the ultimate answer on this is it depends, and it's all about the balance. You know, for me, it's about what's the right balance for you. Do you know what I mean? If you're very time poor and you don't know enough about this space, then actually this might be a bit of a solution for you. But what I'd say is, again, if you want to be more hands-on and you want to really be iterative in that performance, and you've got a slightly more advanced structure, then the reality is AI is probably going to form part of that solution, not all of the solution. And I think it's about that mix. I guess the final sort of 2 or 3 minutes, I want to just focus on, like, what the future of PPC management really looks like. And I think we've alluded to this as we've gone through today, where AI and PPC is like a self-driving car. Like, AI can drive the car, but only you know where it's going, what roads to avoid, and why the journey matters. And I think that goes back to the guardrail point that we mentioned. It's like, yes, the solution is fantastic. And yes, in the same way that my car can brake based on the car in front of it on its own and all of that sort of stuff, but what I'd say is it's me who knows where I'm going. And I think, like, that's the same for businesses. It's knowing what you're trying to achieve and what's right for you, and about putting those guardrails that allow AI to do the thing that it's best at doing. I guess the risk of over automation as well that we see is quite substantial, isn't it, Claudia?
Yeah, if you leave AI to kind of its own devices and you don't check in on it, it doesn't know why it's doing a lot of the things it's doing. So we can see kind of strange ad copy and image combinations that don't make much sense. Some of the ad copy it creates might not align with your brand. Sometimes you get a bit of weird images are quite common. It also doesn't really understand your overarching goal. So if you have, like, certain business KPIs, it might not necessarily be driving those specific ones. It's just driving what it's been told to.
Yeah, and I think it's like, again, it's about, like, it not understanding and the spurious results that you do get. And I have to say, some of the best examples out there around creative, aren't there? Like we've seen that in our own campaigns where, you know, it's been like, you know, we've talked about everything from like product placement activity or the wrong imagery or the wrong backdrop, etc., where it'll just create ads based on the copy, and you sat there going, but that is nothing like the brand guidelines that we've set. So again, it's like a really careful area that you've got to be thinking about all the time, because again, it will just throw out, as you can see on the right, like some pretty wild results that probably don't align with sort of, if you're into graphics, that on the right probably isn't the most compelling graphics-based thing that you would expect from Xbox and in line with really what they're trying to achieve. That looks like the sort of thing I was producing in Paint in circa 2000 in school, by the way. But I guess, you know, one of the final points you want to talk about really was the role of the PPC manager, James, in all of this.
Yeah, I think the 3 points there really, like, as a paid media manager, we're about guiding that strategy. AI is a tool that makes us more effective and more efficient at our job, but it can't do the job without the person guiding it, the person steering the boat. The quality, so like that's the strategic input. It is those guardrails, it's those goals, and it's that optimization. The input, like the data that we feed it, the more data and the more quality, the higher quality the data, the better it'll get, because it has more signals to operate off. And we also have to be able to interpret those results and really then make decisions off the back of it to either adjust our campaign structure, go down a different route. Like there has to be some controls that are put around this so that we're using AI effectively and actually delivering what the end goal is. Because as Claudia rightly said, like it will run away with itself and it'll teach itself the wrong thing if you're not there to course correct.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I was reading something that we get as an agency from Google yesterday, and they were talking about actually like AI adoption among sort of agency-led advertisement activity outstrips like in-house advertising activity because of AI adoption. And I'm sat there going, yeah, because it's like you need to understand all of this. You need to really understand AI activity at a really deep granular level before being able to make the right decisions. And I think that is part of the sell from the platforms themselves, where they're out telling everybody, this is a solution, it's a one-stop shop. And the big noise that they make is, oh, it's meant to be easy and it's meant to be great. And you start going, yeah, but only in the right hands. It's like any tool in the right hands, it 100% can drive better performance. Just left to itself, you'll get some really dicey moments, I think is probably the way I would describe it. So what I'd say is AI is definitely not set and forget. So you've got to regularly audit your performance, like make sure it is truly hitting your goals. Watch for AI over prioritizing cheap conversions versus high quality ones. We see that a lot. It'll start to learn. So it learns if it's seeing low value conversions, it optimizes towards those. It doesn't optimize towards high value conversions. So again, you've got to really understand that. Be ready to adjust goals, exclusions, and structure as strategy evolves is really important. So that's the whole guardrails piece and understanding what we're doing there. And I guess, like, can you use the data uncovered through AI to feed into other marketing initiatives? So again, not just seeing each platform in isolation or each channel in isolation. It's all part of the wider marketing mix. So take your learnings that you see from one platform to another. I think for us, the final thing to say would be, like, think augmented intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. You probably won't go far wrong on this, but again, make sure that you really are considering that. I guess finally, just want to finish up by thanking everybody for the time that they've put into joining us for this session. Thanks, James and Claudia, for joining us. Again, please do sign up. Click the link in the chat right now if you want a conversation with any of us, really, and the wider team on sort of how we're using AI in terms of performance activity for your business, relevant to your particular context and setting, which is, as we found today, all important when we come to talk about AI. Thank you very much, everybody, and I hope to see you soon again on the next MediaWorks Masterclass. Thank you.